Okay, so welcome to this interview on viral change. My name is Markus and I'm CEO of Change Leadership and Partners. CLP is a strategic leadership consultancy here based in London. And today I'm happy to have here as my guest Dr. Leandro Herrero. So welcome.
Thank you.
Let me briefly introduce Leandro. Leandro Herrero practiced as a psychiatrist for more than 15 years before taking on senior management position in several global top league organizations. He's co-founder and CEO of the Chalfont Project Limited, and that is an international consulting firm of organizational architects. Leandro works with organizations of many kinds on structural and behavioral change, leadership, and human collaboration. He's also author of many highly recommendable books like The Leader with Seven Faces, Viral Change, New Leaders Wanted, Now Hiring, and Disruptive Ideas. On a personal note, I'm very delighted having you here today, being a witness of what viral change can do. I'm looking forward to having this interview.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Okay, so what is actually, Leandro, what is viral change?
That's a big question.
Yeah, well.
Yes, that is the question. Okay, the viral change is, I'll give you the headlines and then we can unpack that a little bit more. But viral change is a mobilizing platform to create social movements inside organizations. Mm-hmm. What about that? Mm-hmm. Sounds very big, and it is big, because in reality it's a way to mobilize people within an organization, big or small, particularly big, to create large-scale behavioral change. Which means that when you are doing that, you are shaping culture, you are creating something different, but we speak and we do the language of the social movement, because creating a culture is creating a social movement inside the organization.
So when I want to have a culture change, so viral change would be one way to do it.
It's the platform, is the way to do it. The difference it's a question of terminology, but it's important. Years ago, we will be saying it's a method to do something. And yes, of course, everything is a method, provided that you have some ideas on how to do it. But it's more than a method, because a method usually takes you from A to B, and once you have reached that, you say, okay, that's fine, it's done. A platform stays there. It is a lasting thing that you create for the company. So how to do bottom-up things, peer-to-peer networks, the place of storytelling, the use of behaviors, all that which may have been done originally for a purpose of creating a change in the organization, once this has happened, it stays there. It's like you are installing a new operating system in the organization, which is more than a method, because usually the method doesn't stay long. So it's a mobilizing platform that is installed, if you can use the term, in a company, on a big organization, for the purposes of whatever is needed for the organization, but it remains there as a changeability mechanism, a new operating system, a new way of doing things.
So when you say, I mean, I understand it's not a technical platform, it is a platform, it installs something in the organization to make it sustainable. And it changed behavior. Mm-hmm. What kind of behavior?
The behaviors that we have crafted with the organization, what is needed. It depends if the goal of the organization, for example, is to have a broad change, for example, let's say on customer centrism, and also agility, and also accountability. So there are lots of things that the company needs to do. Then the behaviors will be related to that. If the change is particularly in one area, as we've done many times on safety, well, and that's it. Well, that's the goal. Then obviously all the behaviors are around a culture of safety. So the behaviors depend on what the goal is, but the platform caters for whatever goal it is. So you're always going to have behaviors. You're always going to have peer peer-to-peer networks dealing with that. You're going to have an informal organization taking over more than the formal one. You're going to have storytelling, and you're going to have a leadership that supports that. So that's the package, and therefore the combination of all things with the rules of the game on how to do it over a period of time, usually 1 year, 2 years, more 2 than 1, that is what viral change does. So we don't have viral change programs. We have a program on something that is powered by viral change. We are providing the operating system for the company to realize whatever the needs of the company are.
Okay, you talked about the package, and I have the feeling that in the package there is also a kind of a process.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
So what does a process, one of maybe also many, but what is a process of viral change? What does it look like?
Yeah, okay, yeah, sure, there is a process, and there is a very well defined process that is behind the platform, that starts with uncovering the behaviors that are needed in the system. That's usually is what we call the discovery phase, may take a few months, 2 months, sometimes 3 months. So it's around who is who, around understanding obviously the goals and the vision of the company. All that is the discovery phase, but also starting to understand there who is going to be the individuals who are going to call in to help, because these individuals are not everybody, they are the ones who are highly connected in the network. So we find them. So that is discovery. Then development is the next phase. Could take anything between 2 or 3 months again, depending on how fast you want to go. And it's about calling these individuals to help. We usually do social network analysis to identify these individuals. So a scientific process that is a peer-to-peer nomination is in an anonymous way, but you end up with a collection of individuals who are willing to help in a voluntary way because their peers say, this is the person that you need to work with, and then the next phase is called engagement, which is what you put that together, and for the first time you have all these individuals in a room and say, we need that, we need you, this is why, this is what we need to do, and the whole thing starts. The next phase is called diffusion, and that goes for a few months, many months, and this is where the peer-to-peer activity takes place, the storytelling comes up, so they will have been trained on how to do storytelling. So on engagement, going backwards, we train these groups of individuals to do their role as sometimes called champions, could be called different ways depending on the culture, depending what is more acceptable or not. After the diffusion phase, where we have metrics, we know what's going on, there may be a recalibration of some of the project team members that they are here in the background doing all that, then we declare the final phase, which is called sustain, in which we think most of these things are already there, most of the behaviors are already embedded in the system, what's next? And that is something may happen after year 1 or year 2 or something like that. So this is a very structured way behind, but is not that completely visible to the entire organization. No. We work with an internal project team. We create a group of individuals, anything from 10 to total 20, depending on how big the whole thing is. We work with them, we are embedded them, we work almost full-time there, and we have a principle that we call the principle of designed informality, which means that everything is very well designed, but actually it looks relatively informal for the external world, because we don't want viral change to be ever another initiative coming on top of the other 300 that the organization has. It's the operating system, it's a platform. So the name of the project, it may not be viral change, maybe getting to the customers, or values in actions, or culture of safety, whatever it is, but the power comes from the structure that is behind, that is visible to some people, certainly leaders and the project team members and everything, but the rest of the people, what we want to see is the peer-to-peer activity, the storytelling coming up, the leaders supporting that. All that is beautifully orchestrated from the back, and we call that backstage leadership.
So, Leandro, if I understand that correctly, it's a very subtle approach, almost maybe non-visible to many of the organizations, very visible to some of the organization who set it up and who steer it. But it is also, and I find it very attractive, because actually it doesn't overlap with new assignments or new tasks or as a new project. Is that what I understood? And so you are having, let's call them champions, so networkers, champions. Yeah. And these champions, they are learning new behaviors or changing the organization through new behaviors. Is that
yes?
So
yes, one of the things that they do. Obviously, these behaviors are not secret, so you don't have a bunch of champions going around and a peer-to-peer interaction say, by the way, we have to do that, and your colleagues say, what are you talking about? I never heard that. So in parallel to what we call the pool world, which is the world 2 that we call in one of the books, meaning the peer-to-peer activity, in parallel to that, there will be some sort of top-down campaigning in terms of the communication around the behaviors and around what we need to do. So that is the side that is visible, and that is the side that will look more traditional and more like many other things going on, but it's limited in time. So instead of that being the mechanism for people to change behavior, we know that it doesn't happen like that. You can go forever train to people, this is good for you, these are the behaviors, and people say, okay, fine, yes, I get it, okay, I'm doing that already, or fine, or they don't do it. So that has a limitation, but for us is the external legitimization, visualization that yes, the leadership has decided that we're going that way. That's it. So when I have then a peer-to-peer interaction with you and say, Marcus, we need to do something between you and I and myself, and get Mary and Peter around to do that, and you say, why? I say, well, because we have to do something about those behaviors. So you link with the external reference, but you and I are working not on a new team or new committee or task force or anything like that. We are working as peers, trying to do something, fix something. And by the way, getting into the system, into our circle, the John and Peter and Mary who are in our networks. Because the key word for us here is multiplication.
Yes.
There is no there is no multiplication, as I said, there is no social movement. So we kid ourselves we are talking to each other and having nice coffees and always the same guys, and we know that in any organization they're always the same.
So
volunteers.
How can we reach many?
We don't reach the critical mass. The critical mass reached by you bringing 4, me bringing 5, and each of them another, and continuing this snowball of conversations and actions, because it will be crafted, so it's not just having a nice cup of coffee and being nice to each other. It will be more than that, and that therefore spreads very quickly and gets bigger and creates a critical mass, and all these behaviors become the norm at some point. Not all of them are the same speed, some of them may be more difficult than others, but eventually you can say across the organization this is happening already, and we have some measures and way to say this is there. So it progresses very well and progresses very fast. So we say in this world that we use, it goes from small to big. Was in the traditional top-down communication systems that people have used for many years, and they are still valid and are there, things go the other way around. Start big, like here's a big program, a big communication, and becomes small because a few people do something about it.
I think what you just touched is also the traditional change. The traditional change, the Kotter change, the steps and top down. So, but to make it more concrete, so viral change, is what I understood, is completely the opposite. It's a bottom up, isn't it?
Yes. It's both, actually, it's both. It's mainly visibly for people, it's a bottom up, certainly mechanism of mobilizing the peer-to-peer networks of individuals who have been nominated. So first of all, the traditional way, usually the manager nominates you because you are the good guy and you are the one, and here you are nominated by your peers in an anonymous way, which is very powerful, because when I'm asked to do something or attend the boot camp, as we call it, when we have everybody together for the first time, people say, well, why me? Well, I don't know, your peer said. So it's very powerful to be, it's not my manager or it's my peers that think that actually I have something to contribute here. Okay, so it must be something that, so it mobilizes the peer-to-peer structures, the informal organization, which historically people knew that exists, but didn't know what to do with that. Because what we are very good at is the opposite, as you say, is the top-down communication systems. Here at the spare, there are 20 workshops and then another 300 workshops, and all that has a role, but it's so limited in power.
So I don't need 300 workshops.
You don't need 300 workshops. No, absolutely no. You won't see any probably. You will see zero. I mean, actually, there is a good example, an anecdote to somebody very senior in an organization that was so fed up with all the Kotter type of steps and going down and workshops, etc., that when we explained what he was almost sleeping and suddenly, really? Is that how it was? Okay, but if I see another PwC template, I'm out. Yes, don't worry, you are not going to see that. It's not. Obviously, we have templates, but we don't tell them. But so it's how to master in an orchestrated way the real power that the organization has, which is the distributed leadership, an area that you are master of. So leadership is distributed. It is, if the top is there, okay, that's fine, and we focus too much on that. The real power is in the distribution of the natural leaders that are inside organizations. Everybody knows them, more or less, but we don't know what to do with them because they don't fit into the hierarchy of the system. He's too low, or he's not a manager, or he's an assistant of. But that individual may have a power of pulling around 40 people. I mean, it would be ridiculous in 2017 to say, well, okay, but he's not a manager. What? But he's somebody who can change, for good or bad. Could be a very good influencer or a bad influencer, but I need to know because he has more power.
I'm smiling a bit because it sounds like it crosses hierarchical levels. It is not just sticking to top guys, second level. It is going across. It is probably more who is trusted more, who is a better networker, who can communicate in a better way. That is how it sounds.
Correct. And when we put them together, the champions for the first time, maybe 100 or 200 of them in a place for the first time. So that's a very traditional way. It looks like a training, and it is a training day, but that's the only one almost. The first thing we say is, everybody's equal in this room. So you will be a manager, some of them may be a supervisor, some of them may be a secretary. You are absolutely equal in the room. People don't believe that at the beginning, so it takes a little bit of time to so we say, well, and also you don't represent really your functions here. You may be HR, you may be finance, you may be somebody from the sales force, but I say, leave your sandals at the door. Here we are all equal and we are together. I mean, people say, is that real? It takes a little bit of time for people to understand that this is
sounds very different.
It's very different. I mean, it helps a lot, obviously, if you wouldn't start that kind of gathering of people without having the CEO or people at the top of the company say, I'm here, I support that, I'm behind, I'm not going to interfere. That's how it happens. So it gets a lot of credibility. And then is when we start say, okay, thank you, goodbye. And now is when we start training people on why behaviors, where they're coming from, what am I supposed to do, what do I do? And people tend to default, as you can imagine, all the time to what they knew well. And we all know well how to do meetings, how to create a structure, how to say, well, we'll meet every Friday at 3 o'clock and we'll have an agenda. No, actually, you won't have an agenda, you will have coffee at whatever time, and by the way, we need 20 people. I'm paraphrasing here. So you try to push the informal organization taking over. But always with the formal organization at the back. I mean, it's not in conflict. It's that we are, as you said before, we are not installing another layer of another project with another structure, another committees, teams, etc., because that will kill the whole thing.
And I think the picture of the virus actually is a good picture. Because a virus is not hierarchical.
It's not. It doesn't understand. The network is not hierarchical. The only hierarchy in the network is where you are. then your position in the network dictates your inverted commas hierarchy. If you're somebody very well connected and with broad reach, you are very powerful, powerful in terms of the network, but you may be a supervisor of, which in the system is not that high.
So it sounds all very promising, it sounds all very good, but let me challenge. How can it fail?
Oh God, that's the question that I'm going to play my arrogant answer to that. It has never failed.
Good.
How can anything can fail because we can screw up everything. Okay, so we could.
So how can we screw it up? What is
by having very good question actually, by having all the pieces wrong, for example. So let's say that we say we need a network of individuals highly connected, and they are there, and the organization may say, we have that. What do you mean you have that? Yeah, it's called the talent management pool. And we say, no, talent management has nothing to do with that. But in some cases, when people have done these things, we haven't been present or been able to shape in the right direction from our consulting work, that's what they've done. And there's no surprising later on say, well, that doesn't work. No, because you are cooking with the wrong ingredients. Yeah. Or you have a set of behaviors that say, we have behaviors, thank you very much, but you look at the behaviors and they are not behaviors, they are words, they are not very well crafted, even if they have an agency behind or something. Behaviors for us is something very specific. So if you don't have the right behaviors, you don't have the right peer-to-peer, you, instead of very informal, you revert to the formal organization, you have storytelling because everybody has a storytelling because I'm Mickey Mouse, and by the way, the leaders in terms of backstage, and they are trying to dictate everything every day what to do. It will fail, but it's not viral change. They are creating something completely different. But I think on the whole, my experience on 17 years is that people understand that. I mean, it may take a little while to understand the logic, but you know, Marcus, at these days, and you know that very well from your work in leadership, people are tired of using and reusing the same models that we've been used for the last 40 years, and nobody has changed. And I still believe that you put a coin somewhere and then change will happen. You just follow these 7 steps. But that was created in a time where the world was very linear, very predictable. And so you do that, you do the other, and by year 1 you have that, and year 2 you have that. The world doesn't exist anymore. So we are trying to do change, or people are, with toolkits that don't work. They are all toolkits for a new world. So no wonder people are frustrated and say, here we go again. You know, it's getting harder, and you know that very well, in every day in companies, when you come with anything, whether it's good or bad, and ours is very good, you have a mountain already. Because people say,
we have a mountain.
Okay, here we go again. This is, Initiative 23. So we spend a lot of time saying, actually it's not, believe it or not, and I want to show you how and why. And then is when people say, okay, tell me, because I'm going to pay attention to that, because it sounds very different from what we do. And it is, because installing a platform and operating system is very different from using a traditional change management method, which, by the way, we do not consider ourselves at all as a change management company for that reason.
Okay. I read the book Homo Imitans, one of your famous books.
Yes.
I understood the second edition is viral change?
The other way around. Viral change
Okay.
was first, and Homo Imitans is the follow-up.
So,
yeah.
And I just read it through. It was a really good read. Can I read that book and then do viral change?
It's going to be very difficult. The short answer is probably not, but you can have lots of principles on how to organize your company in a way that actually is using the real potential that you have here. For example,
so can do little steps.
Well, I mean, for example, understanding that influence is all over the place, and that you will need to know who these people are in the organization. So that per se doesn't create change, but it will be a way to understand that. So conceptually and mentally, it will help a lot to go in a direction that breaks with the traditional view. Homo imitans is mainly based on, as the title says, on hammering the idea that we are as individuals, and therefore as managers, and therefore as corporate citizens, an incredibly sophisticated copying machine. We copy everything that goes around. These behaviors scale, by the way. It's not about teaching you behaviors because I can teach you anything and you may not do anything. Behaviors scale by copying. So if that's true, who copies whom and who has the influence and what kind of behaviors and what kind of things I need to copy, it's important. And just sometimes that little revelation that people...
And I think it's very subconscious.
Exactly. So it helps you at least to create in leaders a mental frame that is different from the traditional one, which actually is full of hope, because it gives people the idea that actually the so-called very difficult change, it will take years and it's painful. Actually, it's not. It's just that we are using an approach that it doesn't cater for the organization of today, and of course you have difficulties, but if you do it in a different way, things can change very, very quickly. We all see social change phenomena around that they come like that. They didn't have 3 years incubation and 3 years analysis of the organization and lots of surveys and anything like that. It happens because a group of people are starting doing something, it got bigger, and then you have a social movement. We use all that for a purpose inside the organization. So it's like saying, if that's happening and it's so clever, it's so good, and people know how to do it, what are we missing here in the organization? Well, a lot. So we bring all that inside the company and say, that is our technology. We are going to do exactly other things that you've seen around, but inside the organization, we are the same kind of people, we are human beings, we are drawn by the same laws, and everything that you see, traditionally, the manager and the management world has been very funny, as you know very well. I mean, you do 95 or whatever it is now, you think that you have your rules and your laws and your mechanisms, and then you go home and then you are a completely different individual, and you switch the TV on and you say, oh, what are those people on the street doing? It's funny, it's getting together, it's a social movement. Okay, that's interesting, or I like it or no. Then you go back in the morning, another 9 o'clock, and you forget that has the same mechanism that you have inside the organization. But we have created some walls around us, thinking that we are very special, but we are not. So one of my dreams, getting there slowly, is to bring both worlds, a micro social world of change, which is there in front of you, and the the one inside the organization, which traditionally was hijacked by the communications people and HR people, and actually, if we understood that as a social movement management, dare I say, we will have much better organizations, and employee engagement and everything else, by definition, then is there, even if you don't call it like that, because...
So, thank you, Leandro. I think we're coming to an end. However, I think I have one point I have many points, but there's one point, it sticks out to me, that organizations are a micro cosmos. They are hierarchical built still. We want to have them more agile. We want to have them cross-functional. We would like to have them cross-hierarchical. So actually, what you're proposing here is, or what you're doing actually is not proposing, is what you're doing in organization is actually what every top leader has to know.
I think so, because the hierarchical system is not going to go away. We will always be there. So sometimes we kid ourselves when the last years it's been very popular to say we're going to get rid of hierarchy and everything is going to be self-managed and everything else, and it doesn't work because the human interactions require some reference, whether you call a hierarchy or no, that doesn't really matter, but you need reference. So you need a structure. So the structure in the organization is here to stay. The can be healthier, can be better, can be improved in their systems, absolutely. But what we are missing, or we've been missing for many years, is that besides that there is another world, which is the informal one, that has been for many years like an anecdote, because we don't know what to do with that. So the formal system, we know how to manage and create, change people, organization, charts and everything else. And the informal world, yes, okay, people talk in the corridor. But actually that talking in the corridor is where makes the difference and shapes the the culture because you copy each other. So what we are doing is to say, don't change that, but there is another world, and both worlds need to work together. And it's in mastering this plus that we have, the world 1 and world 2 that we call it, that is what the new leader has to know. So, because there's so much richness in the world 2, in the world of the peer-to-peer interactions, the bottom-up, etc. Which, by the way, some people think that, because it's informal, you need to leave it as it is, and don't worry about it or worry. But there is nothing you can do. You can orchestrate that. You can help that to manage. It's like saying in a political campaigning, we want to get this guy elected, and you have a bunch of guys, champions or activists in the system, and say, well, elect this guy, goodbye. Doesn't work like that. I mean, there is work to do. So here is the same. It's work to do a lot in orchestrating and nurturing that informal organization. Just because it's informal doesn't mean anybody can do anything. So when although it's viral, it's very well controlled in terms of what's happening. But it's massive in terms of power compared with the very limited power that I think many leaders understand today. More and more I see every day that they have limited power, actually, plenty of data around that they have some limitations. I mean, maybe they are there, they have a reason to be there, they have to be there, but compared with the power that the natural leaders have at the distributed leadership is very minor. So here we are.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you very much. Thank you.